Hello, everyone. Welcome to another BDPA Tech and Career Talk. I am our National Tech and Career Talk leader, Devin Jenkins. Serve as an IT business partner for our U.S. and Canada commercial operations organization at GE Healthcare. And I'm the founder and CEO of Shared Device LLC. We connect people to music and technology. I'm based here in Charlotte, North Carolina. But we have people with us from all over today. So in the comments, let us know where you're joining us from. Doesn't matter where you're from, just let us know in the comments, whether you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, put it in the comments so we can know who's in the room with us today. Thank you for joining us. Super excited to have you with us for an amazing conversation today with a special guest. But before we get into all of that, I always like to make sure everyone is familiar with who BDPA is and what this platform is all about. So you just have a little bit more context around what we're doing here, and you can share it and maybe you get more involved with us. So BDPA was founded in 1975 as Black Data Processing Associates. The organization is primarily focused on building the African American talent community within the technology industry. We have a focus on youth, starting at the middle school level, developing computer programming skills, other technology related skills, and insights to prepare them for careers in technology. But also there's a collegiate level and a professional arm of our organization. So throughout the course of your career, there are still opportunities through BDPA to continue to grow and develop, expand your network, so that you are poised to advance your career from the classroom to the boardroom. So that's BDPA. These Tech and Career Talks take place the second and fourth Friday of each month, from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time. And we have a range of topics. So we have soft conversations, soft skills. We talked about emotional intelligence before. We talked about how to work with jerks. We talked about updating your resume and your LinkedIn. But we have hard technology focused conversations as well. We've talked about brain machine interaction, AI, and cybersecurity, and cloud, and so much more. So we give you quite the range, regardless of where you're at, whether you're a student who's trying to figure out, hey, what do I want to do with my career? I'm new to this thing. I'm just trying to figure out where I want to be. Or you're somebody who's been in technology 30 years. It doesn't matter. We have something for everyone that you can take value from. So thank you for being here today. I'm super glad to have you with us and looking forward to today's conversation. Before we jump into it, I have to make sure I bring up our phenomenal national conference is coming up here in July in Indianapolis. We will be at the Hyatt Regency there in Indianapolis, July 15th through the 18th. So we're there for BDPA Con 26, our national conference, our hallmark event each year. I'm super excited for this year's experience. We have some great speakers lined up, great sessions, and more to come. So make sure you go to bdpa.org/BDPACon26. I'm in register. We still have our super early bird rate going on for about another week. So May 16th, super early bird in. So get in there, get it now while it's the cheapest it's ever going to be. Register. Scan that QR code up there in the corner. I'll leave it there for you a little bit longer. You can get registered for our conference. You can join us there in Indianapolis. At our conference, speaking of our conference, if you have a business at its early stages, so we're defining this as a new business idea or a business that is less than 3 years old or less than 500K of capital raised. We have our From Idea to Launch Entrepreneurial Pitch Competition. I lead this for our organization as well, so I look forward to this every year. This is our 5th annual one, so we want this to be our biggest and best one yet. So make sure you get registered for that. I think we have about another week for that as well. So get registered for our pitch competition. If you have a technology business idea or early stage business and you want to pitch your business to get some additional resources, tap in with our BDPA network to move what you have going forward. Register for our S52L pitch competition. We have some exciting sponsor announcements coming soon and more on that. So I wanted to share that with you. You can take advantage of all we have going on. So get registered for BDPA Con 26 today. Do it now. If you're watching this live or you're watching the replay, just pause this. You can scan the QR code and do what you need to do that. So, hey, that's that. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, like, share, subscribe, comment below. Let us know what you think about our conversation today. Let us know other topics you want to hear in the future. If you have questions throughout the conversation, put them in the comments. We will be watching those and making sure we get those addressed at the end. And we're going to have a great time. So with that being said, I want to give a quick intro for our speaker today, and then I'm going to bring him up and get out of his way so he can give you all of the great gems he has for you today. So today's speaker is Nimish Gujarathi. Nimish is a technical project leader at Ecolab in Minnesota, where he manages complex connected IoT or Internet of Things devices. He works at the intersection of technical expertise and strategic guidance for both engineers and non-technical stakeholders. Originally from India, Nimish grew up watching his parents run a highly diverse coaching institute. That early exposure to people from all walks of life inspired his core professional philosophy, which is to build technology and products that touch everyone's lives. He came to the U.S. to earn his master's in electrical engineering from State University of New York at Buffalo, and he is currently elevating his strategic expertise as an MBA candidate in Indiana University's Kelley School of Business. I didn't get my MBA from Kelley School of Business, but I did get a graduate certificate in business management. So I'm technically an alum of Kelley School of Business. So shout out to Kelley School of Business. Nimish is what you might call an entrepreneur in an engineer's body and a community builder at heart, whether that means founding Electronic, which play on electronic, Electronic, a volunteer initiative that helps senior citizens navigate technology, serving as the VP of Communications for the Entrepreneurship and Venture Capital Association at Kelley, or somehow convincing 40 of his co-workers to pick up trash on a Saturday morning for a corporate Adopt a Highway program. Today, he is here to share a hard-learned blueprint. He'll be talking about his own journey from pitching the technical how to pitching the business what, and teaching us how to navigate the silent boardroom biases that can kill a great idea. So I'm super excited to have Nimish Gujarathi with us today from Ecolab to talk about translating between business, engineering, and market value. So glad to have you with us, Nimish. I'm going to get out of your way and give you the floor so you can talk us through this amazing topic today, but looking forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Devin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. I'm very happy that you have tuned in. Thank you so much to the BDPA for inviting me today and Devin for coordinating everything. He's the one who has had to answer, bear with me, I had countless questions about this session. So thanks a lot to him. We'll be talking about translating business, engineering, and market value in this session. And this is a very fancy combination of words, but trust me, it's not at all intimidating. It's just very common sense principles. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to ask them on your streaming of choice, be it LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. We'll get them covered at the end. All right. So what will I be sharing today? Things that I've learned the hard way, so you don't have to. We'll be talking about pitching like a business person, no matter what professional background you come from. You could be a car mechanic and you would still be able to pitch a good business. We would do a lot of scary self-reflection, looking into our biases and just the human psychology that goes behind this. And we will talk about how to get people to trust you even if you don't have a fancy title. The old adage that titles are cheap, it's really very true. So this is me. I am originally from India. I grew up in a suburb of the city of Mumbai. I moved to Buffalo, New York in 2016 for my master's, and I now live in Minneapolis. For the first couple of slides, I'm just going to introduce myself, tell you a story of how I've grown into the position I'm in, and it just gives you more context about where all this lecture I'm about to give you is coming from, right? See, I'm already building credibility. So I'm a senior firmware engineer with Ecolab in Minnesota. And I've spent around 8 years in this career, in the embedded systems field. Embedded systems are the connected IoT devices that Devin initially spoke about. And I'm now transitioning into more of leadership roles, taking on leadership responsibilities. So I'm doing my MBA from Indiana University so that I understand more of that business realm. And my goal is to specialize in finance. So where did it all start? Right, let's kick off with a story. I'm going to introduce you to a very young Nimish and where this business bug got into me. So I grew up in India for 21 years of my life. My parents were business owners. They ran a coaching institute that tutored you if you were struggling in school. And to some students, they were nothing less than life coaches. And they did none of that for profit or grade. Their students came from all kinds of diverse backgrounds, rich or poor, different religious beliefs, different racial backgrounds, people from different parts of India that had different cultures. It did not matter. And believe it or not, they were like a very small minority, but we did have people of African descent, people who were Portuguese, Jewish, all kinds. And I was very lucky that I was exposed to this very diverse group of students at a very young age. And that nonprofit is what inspired me to be an entrepreneur. And I wanted to build a product that touched everyone's life, regardless of where they came from. Think like a mattress, right? That product knows no boundaries. Even your pets use it, right? So fast forward to college, given my analytical and mathematical brain, I got into engineering. I had that drive. I wanted to build a product that was going to change the world. And then the reality set in. All I wanted to do was just change my grades for those 4 to 6 years and just go through the finals. I kept the dream alive though. I saw this opportunity to pursue a master's degree, and that's how I moved to the US. Well, now you must be asking, well, great, life story told, dude, get to the point. I feel you. I bored myself to give all that context too. But I've always been an extreme extrovert. It's something that my mom passed to me. I'm not bragging. It's both a blessing and a curse. And that led me down a path during my electrical engineering master's, where I got actively involved in their professional development program. They had all these guest speakers that taught you how to network, connect with people, persuade them to invest in you. Translation: give you a job. And the way I interpreted the training was that I need to polish up my resume, tell the people all these things that are going to show them how valuable I am. Show off my projects, that entire spiel of how much you're interested in working for a specific project for their company, right? And it worked. Like all that LinkedIn networking, it landed me one of my dream roles, which was developing embedded systems. And I started working for this hearing aid company called Starkey Hearing Technologies. Of course, very noble. They were helping people hear, and not just old people, but of all ages. And it's a smart device for everyone. All right, the opening scene is July 2019. I'm 2 months into this first job at Starkey. I'm just a happy little butterfly who doesn't know what a global pandemic is, doesn't know anything about business. I'm just happy to be there, just happy in my cocoon. And that time, one of my lead engineers, he suggested to me, like, hey, since you're one of the only ones on the team who can write code in Python, so why don't you try automation for Apple devices, iOS? It's incredibly hard to do automation for iOS devices, and our company was severely lacking in that department. I immediately took that up. I was working after hours, putting in my full effort. This is what was going to get me that big promotion. This is what was going to build my reputation. I put in so many hours, months. I make that system. The day comes where I have to present it to multiple teams in my company. I'm very proud of it. Look at this automation system I built. All you have to do is press this one single tap on the iPad, and it will connect to all the hearing aids. It will run the entire test for you. I'm going through everything I worked at, what features I built, how cool it was. It's going to help people do their jobs faster, things like that. And I didn't know anything about the magic words called change management. I didn't know anything about what value proposition means. And I was just standing there at the podium in a full suit. Mind you, I was that serious. You have no idea, but my team was so laid back. Some of those people even showed up in shorts to work. And I was standing there in like a full suit, so you can imagine the cringe. But I did the presentation. I got no formal feedback for it. Would my pet project be adopted? I kept following up with my boss, and finally he called me to his office saying that, hey, you did a heck of a job, but the verification team will not be adopting your idea. unfortunately, the business wants you to do a very specific kind of a role. We want your expertise used in this specific realm rather than you following this wild goose chase that may or may not work out. And I was crushed. But he gave me possibly the most important lesson of my life that completely changed my thought process. Right? He said, "Look, you're very talented, very smart, but your time has to be invested in this because this is what keeps the lights on." Right? And that made no sense to me as an engineer. All we have been seeing on social media till that point was, Silicon Valley was telling us, go have fun, your job should be fun, do innovations, the money will follow, things like that. And that's what I thought I was doing, right? And but that is not reality. And back in India as an undergrad, I had attended an event by Google Business Group, and they had invited entrepreneurs from various different businesses to give a talk on how they manage their business. And after that meeting, that was like the one thing that I was reflecting on what went wrong, things like that. One person stood out to me from that meeting. I'll never forget him. They had said that business is not glitz and glamour. It's a lot of day in and day out, extremely boring legwork that nobody's willing to do, and it's not for the faint of heart. Um, and and that really sat with me. Like it had happened to me in real life, and now I was realizing that you can literally apply this mantra to anything in your life. You want to be a marathoner, you got to go on those long boring practice runs for many months. And you want to be an engineer, you got to go study that boring math, no matter how boring or how, like, you think useless it is. Right? Want to become a surgeon? Don't even get me started, right? So that's what I decided to apply at my job. I got over the initial fail pitch. I focused on my boss's advice. Do what you've been told to do, grow the business, prove yourself first. Just put my head down, crunched out code, solved important problems that were critical to them, became a good team player, learned a lot about team playing. And of course, COVID hit. We had an extreme chip shortage. We were working like 13, 14-hour days to get around those supply chain issues. Um, and we were doing everything to keep our products afloat and with the chip crisis. And slowly entered the year 2023. By this point, I was a seasoned engineer, knew how to work with teams. I knew the caveats you would face in a project. I'd worked with a lot of people in a lot of teams, understood the company structure really well, right? So finally, the day came with the support of my lead engineer. I asked him like, "Hey, can we? I know you had suggested this to me a while ago. Can we propose this again? And we will do it a very different way. Here is my idea. This is what we will do." And because he was a lead, I got support from him, and together this is what we pitched. Right, it was a very different kind of a pitch. So what all did we change? Right, value proposition. That was the most important thing. We I had identified that we were using a lot of resources from the QA team. So building this automation system is first and foremost going to help reduce those QA resources. It will make the development team more efficient. It will reduce their time to market. You will have issues that happen out in the field that will be identified sooner. It will protect the company image. You will save so many resources in the long run. Um, you know, we considered every bias that the panel would have against us. Right? And it can range from just, "Hey, I just don't like this guy," to "Why should we change now? We have done this for like 25 years, and who are you to just come in and tell us to do things differently?" Or it could be, "We just don't have the budget for this. This is not worth it. Why should we invest in this?" Right? So those are the things that we tackled. Right? You have to keep in that whole process. You have to keep asking yourself, why? Why am I doing this? Get those answers out of the way, because it will come up where You will be asked why you're doing a certain thing, and if you're not prepared, you will also start questioning it in the presentation. You'll not know why, right? So get rid of your own biases. And as you must have noticed, I told them all those features without telling them a single technical feature, right? They were not interested in that. Um, so yeah, that's the secret recipe. Nothing more. End of presentation, right? Just kidding. So this formula works for everything. Right? What I'm trying to say here is applied to everything, as being a part of a business. End of the day, you as an employee are a part of that business. Um, you know, you want to ask for a promotion. You know, just telling your boss all the smart, incredible things you've done is not going to work. Right? You have to persuade them from a point of view of making a business case for you. You have to help them help you, right? And another hurdle here is that this is not just like a black and white process. You aren't going to just walk into the room, say, these are my efforts. This is what I made the company like 200,000 last year, and my salary is 100,000. Fill that gap. That's not how it works. Promotions involve budget cycles, department politics, peer equity. So yeah, documenting your financial impact will not guarantee an overnight promotion, but it makes it impossible for them to ignore you when the budget opens up. So you're building an undeniable business case for yourself, right? And nobody's going to do this for you. You have to do it yourself. You have to identify all of these things, how your company works, what are the internal politics, who has influence, things like that. You have to do this yourself. And this can be applied to things that don't even make the company any money. Right? By 2023, I had volunteered at that point for 4 years with Starkey's Adopt a Highway program, and that involved convincing people to pick up trash from the side of the highway at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, 3 times a year. And out of the thousands of employees we had, only like 7 or 8 were showing up. And by this point, I had risen in the volunteer ranks to become like a co-organizer of that event, and I wanted to make like a bigger impact, right? I was real strategic. I tapped into like the corporate social responsibility post that they had made on their website, and told them like, hey, if your managers don't support this, no employee is going to support it, because managers were not showing up to those events, right? So, C-suite got involved in that. They immediately, the participation went up to like 35, 40 people. A lot of people from the upper echelon started getting invested in this, and that's a 400% increase. Right? They were so happy with the employee engagement and corporate image boost that they even hired an executive assistant to support running this program. It became that valuable to them. So really, that formula works for everything. Let's talk about what would leadership actually look like. This is Act 2, where we are now moving from talking about what was done with Nimish as a technical person to what leadership actually entails, right? If I want to become a leader, what is it? It's just titles? Is it just values? Because at this point, I had applied for a different role. I became a senior engineer with Ecolab at this point. So I had become a senior engineer with Ecolab, and that's where I presently am. I'm heavily into project leadership. My title still says I'm a senior firmware engineer, but I would say it's a 70-30 split between leadership and technical work, right? I'm heavily invested in project leadership. My day job has gone from writing code to negotiating with people. Mind you, the first few years of your career, you'll have to do this without the title. Um, my title is senior firmware engineer, but all I do is project leadership at this point, and the work pertains more to stakeholder management than actually writing code. You rise up, or you mature to a point where They know that you know the inner workings of the business. So just using you for your technical knowledge is not going to be the most efficient, right? So you're sitting there using your technical expertise to give to either non-technical people or technical people from other teams who don't understand what your team does, right? And we make a lot of connected devices at Ecolab that monitor customer data, right? The customer could be any business. It could be like food and beverage plants, hotels, restaurants, things like that. And we monitor this data to give our customers better services that are more personalized to the application, right? So this term data collection is very easy to say, but it's extremely difficult to maintain as an infrastructure because you will have all these devices gateway like deployed at a customer account that could go offline, it could stop reporting, lose cell service, multitude of problems that you don't have any immediate insight into why that happened, right? So people will come to me with like two types of questions. Hey, we need to build this system. What do you recommend is the most important thing to do? And how fast can we do it? Can you provide an estimate? Or they'll come to me by saying that, hey, this is not working in the field with the same exact question. How fast can we fix it? Right? Provide an estimate. Sometimes the answer is direct. Do this series of steps, it will be done. Sometimes you have to sit down, think, troubleshoot, do hands-on work in the lab as a technical person, and then provide a solution that your team will implement. Right? So you'll say, Nimish, that is awesome. What a cushy job. I want one too. All you do is sit there, tell people what to do, and you just use your brain. Wow. Like, well, there are caveats to this, and they start being real visible when things don't go as planned, right? Um, who's the first person that it's going to come to bite when things go sideways? It's going to be you, right? So it's going to be me, not my team. They're not going to go to an engineer in my team and be like, hey, this is your fault, you did this. No, they're going to be like, Nimish, you greenlighted this, and you are accountable for this process to go smoothly, which it did not happen, right? So they'll ask me like really tough questions for which I better have good answers, right? All the potential mistakes that you made in those calculations, lack of foresight, biases that you had, business things that you did not take into account, you did not consider, they will all come back to you. And this is where the initial pitch that you provided, it becomes extremely visible. And they will start nitpicking things from there, right? So you better have covered yourself. So how do we avoid the scenario, right, of people coming at you because things went wrong? um, we look for these biases, right? And these are I would say there are different types of biases in psychology, and a lot of them apply to a lot of fields. But these are some of the biases that apply to I would say my particular field. So take it with a grain of salt. There might be other biases that apply to your field, but most commonly these are the biases that burn you when you're doing a pitch, right? You're pitching your idea, and things like that. Um, Affinity bias. Affinity bias is that thing that I said, hey, I just don't like this guy, or I love this guy. Just because somebody is a high performing rock star, you don't take their word as gospel. One of my mentors at Ecolab, she always says, trust but verify. And she's absolutely right. This is affinity bias, where you listen to somebody just because you like them as a person, right? Um, Confirmation bias. You have to keep asking why. We all have some level of confirmation bias. If you like a specific brand, you buy the product without questioning the quality or doing any research on it. You will find good reasons to buy it and ignore reasons not to buy it. Same applies to engineering solutions. You will keep looking for things that look shiny, look good on paper, and you'll ignore things that might go wrong. Right? Don't use your gut feeling. Like, everything has to be backed by data. That's anchoring bias. You cannot just say that, oh, we ran these data analytics like 5 years ago, and that's what pointed to this customer problem. So that's what we are solving. And that's useless because it could no longer be relevant, right? You have to ask around. You have to talk to your project manager. You have to talk to your product manager, or the product owner, who's greenlighting all these financial things. Take those metrics from them. You know, um, you'd think that if you ask them those questions, they're going to be like, "Why do you care? That's not your role. That's not your job. Stay in your lane." No, they'll actually be very impressed that you did your homework, and you're coming to them with all these questions beforehand, right? Um, Automation bias. We have this in the world right now where everything is AI, 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 right? But we have to realize that we have to use AI to refine, not to create, right? Like if I wrote this entire speech using AI, would it make any sense to you? Like it will have no background of like, what I'm trying to tell you, where I'm coming from, what my experience has been, things like that. uh, did I write a sketch and have AI refine it for me? Absolutely. That's what the tool is for. You're not supposed to use automation to like do a do a job completely. You're supposed to use it to help you do something. And we over rely on systems that do the work for us. Um, and then obviously there is optimism, way too much optimism, planning fallacy, and sunk cost fallacy. Like, hey, we have spent so much money in doing this. Let's keep continuing this. You don't admit defeat. You keep doing a failing project, right? Um, Moving on. So basically, we spoke about these biases, and things like that. So how do we apply all this knowledge that we now know? Like, hey, I'm going to take care of all these biases. I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to do my research, and I'm going to come up with a solid business pitch, right? um, Now that we've discussed all that, we are going to cover ourselves. You're a solid product. You're going into your this is the product that will launch you into your next title. This is the product that is going to get you that credibility from upper management. um, what are some frameworks or techniques that you can use to translate your ideas into that business pitch, right? So the first framework is it's called the ARIA framework. Um, Structuring your communication with non-technical audiences, or as we spoke before, audiences who don't understand what you do in your realm. They could be very technical audiences, but they just don't know. You could be talking to mechanical engineers who don't know anything about software engineering, right? So know your audience, understand who you're talking to. um, you know you have executives, marketing people, investors. You have to know what they care about, because they genuinely don't care how many buttons you press to start the system. They only care about what impact it has, right? You have to shift that focus from, you have to reframe it from like, what does the tech do, to what it is going to enable this business to do, right? Where is it providing market value to this business? In Ecolab, they call it mobilizing enterprise value, right? Where is it going to mobilize things? You have to use good illustrations, use analogies, use stories. I'm doing that with you right now. You have this presentation in front of you. I told you a story of like, where this all is coming from. It has to be a very relatable concept, right? um, and and be sure to not just have them ask you questions, but you also have to ask them, like, very clear, specific requests, right? Hey, this was my pitch. Now what specifically do you need from me? How can we make this successful as one team? Is it funding that's lacking? Where do I need to get certain approvals? When can I run a pilot program? What are the action items I can take from my end that will convince you that I know what I'm talking about, right? or you're gonna always have a hook at the end of your presentation. In those YouTube videos, people ask you, leave a comment, things like that. That's a hook. They're asking you to engage with them, right? So framework 2 and 3 are also very important. Your first framework is very generic, I would say, but 2 and 3 are somewhat specific. They're granular. They go into some of the nitty-gritties of this. Um, and you have the outcomes first framework, right? And this is more geared toward like executive level pitching, where people only want a very high level um, reasoning of why you're doing what you're doing, right? You cannot tell them any tech jargon. Like they don't care what code you're writing, right? You have to define where it is being painful for the business, like, in either in dollar terms, or where are you losing money, right? Um, and that loss could be anything. It could be either due to like a system downtime or a process inefficiency, and things like that, right? What are the outcomes going to be, right? We are going to reduce downtime to increase revenue, or we are going to make this process more efficient, such that it will in the long run end up making us more money, right? You invest money to save money, that kind of a deal, right? And then you can briefly explain the technology, like why I'm asking for funding for this. I need to put in place these and these systems to achieve this outcome, right? So things like that. And one of my mentors always said that it's not just about the money. You can't go in the room and say, oh, if I do this, I'm going to save you like 50 grand. And they don't care. They will ask you, okay, you will save us 50,000 now, but is that it? uh, and you'd just be standing there like, okay, like what do you want, right? So no, it's more of, you have to pitch it from the perspective of process efficiency, where if you start talking in percentage improvement versus dollar savings, it starts making more sense to them, because your 50,000 now could become 1 million later, right? And then the third is, you have the so what technique. uh, Keep asking yourself this: okay, we are implementing a certain architecture. So what? It'll make the application more resilient. So what? It'll do this, reduce downtime. So what? It'll save us like $500,000 lost. And even after 500,000, you have to start asking, so what? And you might call me insane, like, hey, we just saved 500,000. Isn't that enough? No, not to an $80 billion company. Your 500,000 is just a drop in the bucket for them, right? This isn't about money. It's about process efficiency that's going to eventually save them millions. All right. So you did all of this. You did so much hard work. You're gonna get people to trust you. Like, you solved all these biases. But maybe, like, still in the boardroom, people still probably have an affinity bias towards somebody else. It's wrong, but there's nothing you can do about it. You cannot control other people's biases, right? So how will you navigate that? You have to build credibility over time, right? Whether you're a subordinate or a leader, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, you have to remember that even at the upper echelons of C-suite leadership, they are also subordinates. Even the CEO is the subordinate of the stakeholders, right? Of the shareholders. Sorry. So that this you still have to have competency and that credibility, so that people will trust you, right? So those are the 4 C's. Competence. You have to demonstrate expertise. You can't just demonstrate expertise once. You have to do it consistently over and over, such that, Nimish has done not just one project, but 10 projects that have been successful. This is why we should trust him. He's competent. You should be a person of good character. You have to act with integrity. Be reliable. If you give people a certain timeline, hey, I will get this to you by 12 p.m. tomorrow. Make sure you fulfill that promise. Otherwise, people are not going to trust you, right? um, Build relationships. This could be anybody in your organization. You have to build relationships and trust with other people in your organizations to uh, to first of all put yourself out there such that they will know what you do, right? If they don't know you exist, how will they, if they have an idea to execute something, um, how will they know that you can do it? They would probably put out like an internal job listing or an external job listing, and you will not get that opportunity that you could have got, right? Because you are competent to do that job. um, and you have to understand what the culture and the organizational environment is, who's influencing it. Things like that. They teach us in MBA about, you have to talk to people of influence, because those are the people who have the power to actually execute your project. So if they trust you, if they find you to have the first three C's, then they'll actually fund your project, right? They'll let you do what you have always dreamed of doing or want to do, execute your ideas, because they have the influence to give you that power, right? And this is more of a, I would say, a philosophical slide, but while embodying these four C's, right? You have to do a lot of persuasion, right? You have to persuade people who don't report to you, right? If your boss tells you something, you take that as the gospel. Fine, I'll do it, like no questions asked, right? But how do you persuade people who don't report to you, right? And this is what even I face a lot at my current company, where nobody reports to me, but I still have to persuade them to listen to my ideas, and I have to keep reminding them of like the business value that I'm providing, and also the business value that they are providing to this project, right? You can't just toot your own horn and be like, oh, this is what I'm doing is so valuable. You have to keep yourself honest, and tell them like, look, we are working towards the same goal. What you are doing is amazing in that aspect. What I'm doing is amazing in this aspect. Combined, we will be an awesome team, right? And then they'll start feeling it, right? Like, oh, finally, somebody who understands me, somebody who appreciates me, keeps track of my achievements and progress. I don't have to do it myself, right? Imagine them feeling that with them reporting to you, actually, right? So that is a true leader, right? Your manager, if you're just a manager, you're just doing a job, right? Somebody told you to handle these three people, so you're handling it. You're delegating tasks, you're managing their performance, you're holding them accountable, things like that. It's just a very cut and dry transactional relationship, right? But as a leader, you are recognizing the best in people. You're helping them grow. You're telling them what they're doing great. You're amplifying their strengths. You're pushing your employees to be better, and um, that's also going to push you up, right? You think that pushing other people up is going to eventually make them your boss, and that's not really how it works. That doesn't mean that you go out of your way to keep people down, right? Because if you try to keep people down, you will also stay down, right? And this works really. I'll give you a very simple example of this, which I've also noted on the bottom of my slide. Imagine you're a senior manager, right? How's your leadership going to look at you? Like, you took all these junior people, you grew them into leaders. You as a senior manager built managers in your team, and that is what has driven the company to achieve even a higher profit, right? That is how you will go from being a manager to director, right? It starts making sense when you start going higher and higher, right? Don't think about it from a narrow perspective of just being an employee. So here's your final blueprint, right? you know Prove your value first, make people trust you, keep your word, deliver things on time, build your credibility. Translate. Always read the room. Always think about what it is that people want. Do your homework. Um, Third is know your biases. It is the enemy of your like good decisions. If you've watched the television series called the movie series called Godfather, he says, anger will cloud your judgment, right? So I always think about that from like all different perspectives, like what is going to cloud my judgment, right? So biases also cloud your judgment, right? Credibility is what will win you people, right? That is what is going to, the numbers don't lie, right? If somebody in the room has that bias that I just don't like this guy, your credibility is going to make them think otherwise. The numbers don't lie. And this is, if you see people like getting promoted overnight, they launch something, they get a massive promotion, they have played a very long game of those four C's. It just doesn't happen overnight. And always push people up. I'm not saying that you just let them walk all over you, but be generous. Trust me, good karma will come back to you. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for bearing with me here. And if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the chat. And please feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you have any ideas, anything that you want to talk about, anything you're shy to say in this presentation. Please feel free to send me an IM, and I will try my best to either solve your problem or like provide advice, things like that. And it'll be a really good conversation. All right, so I have a question. Who would own the intellectual property rights to your project? You as the sole owner, shared ownership with the company, or sole ownership by the company? So that really depends on what is the agreement that you signed with the company, right? Think about it this way: that you as an employee are still running a one-person business, right? When let's say that tomorrow Google comes to me, right? Like, hey, we want to hire you. They're not looking at me as like an employee. They're looking at me as an asset, right? So everything is negotiable. So you tell them that, look, um, this is IP that I am developing, so I want it to be in my ownership. And if that's not agreeable to you guys, we can work together, right? And sure, you will sometimes reach an impasse with your business partners, where think about like your relationship with your company as your company being your business partner, right? If you reach an impasse where you don't agree with the company values, with what they do, things like that, it's time to split paths, right? So it all depends on what is that initial agreement that you sign with the company, right? They make you sign these things called arbitration agreements, where you will not sue the company. You will um, hire like an independent arbiter uh, to solve those disputes and things like that, right? So those are all things that are agreed upon initially in that contract. Your offer letter for your employment is actually a contract. So read it really well, because that defines all those legal boundaries of intellectual property, and who's really going to, like, make what share of income and money from this agreement, right? That is what I would say about that. Correct. Yes, most companies want sole ownership if you use the resources and work on their time. Absolutely. And this is where you also have to be careful, where if you have like pet projects in your backyard, do you really want to bring them to your company, or you want to be an entrepreneur and provide them to the world as your IP, right? So yeah, it is a very challenging thing to do, uh, because employers are more looking at employees like, oh, we don't want any legal problems later on, right? So they are protecting themselves. End of the day, you also have to protect yourself, right? So be aware of all those things. Thank you. More questions. If you don't talk, I'm just gonna keep talking here.
All right, Nimish. Well, I think that's all of our questions for now. But I'll give you an opportunity if there's any final words you want to say to the audience before we wrap up. And I brought your slide back up on the screen so everyone can have a chance to connect with you on LinkedIn to continue the conversation if they would like.
Absolutely. And like I said, thank you so much to the BDPA for giving me this opportunity. This is one of the first times where I'm doing a public talk like this. So it was a lot of preparation, even for me. I had to run this through like multiple independent people. Like, hey, I think this is how business works. Do you think I'm right? Is this really how it works? There are so many things in here that my even my wife argued with me, like, oh, do you really think that that's how it is? So things like that. I had to keep myself honest too when I was giving you this presentation. So know that it's been vetted by multiple people. And I'm really looking forward to doing more presentations with BDP as there are more opportunities. And like I said, if you have any other ideas, if you have any feedback about this presentation, oh hey, I really liked that you said that, or I really did not like that you said it this way. That's not really how it works. Please feel free to engage with me. I am a very um, I would say constructive uh, debater for constructive ideas. So definitely feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm looking forward to that good conversation.
Thank you, Nimish. Nimish, this has been great. And I hope you found value in sharing with our audience, and I hope everyone has taken value away from what you've shared. I think this is a very timely discussion. Whether you're, like I say, a student looking to get into this field, coming in with all these great ideas, all this energy, this passion, and if you aren't careful, you can lose that energy and passion very quickly after a few rejections because we don't quite understand how to communicate our ideas in the right language. And that's really what investment, sponsorships, everything comes down to. At the end of the day, it's what's the language that I need to speak of the people that I'm looking to invest in what I'm trying to do. And that's exactly what you're speaking of. And us in technology careers, we have to be extra cognizant of that. Someone in finance, so you naturally think about numbers, and you think about benefits and what this means for the company. As a senior leader, a CEO, you have that mindset. How are we growing the business, and everything like that. But as a technologist, sometimes we get caught up, like you say, in the hard facts, and we have this great feature that's going to be life changing. But you have to understand the language of your audience and the people you're trying to get to buy into what we're doing. So thank you for sharing this to me. It resonates with me because I'm quite literally in the middle of our investment planning process for 2027. So this is the life I'm living right now. So thank you. This is very timely, and looking forward to having you continue to engage with us at BDPA.
Thank you so much, Devin. It's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. So again, thank you all for joining in today. Again, I want to remind you to go register for BDPA Con 26. We'll be in Indianapolis, July 15th through the 18th at the Hyatt Regency. So make sure you're there so you can hear and be a part of conversations like this and more with many great speakers, talented technologists, students, and everything in between from all across the country. So join us in Indianapolis, July 15th through the 18th, BDPA Con 26. Get that early bird, that super early bird rate. You have about 8 more days. And if you're watching this after the 8th, you have less than that. So, hey, tell a friend, share this, share the live, share this post, and make sure you and all the people that you know who are in technology or interested in it are with us in Indianapolis, July 15th through the 18th. Can't wait to see you there. So that being said, thank you. Like I said, like, share, subscribe, comment below, click that bell so you know when we post. If you're on YouTube, share this right now. Share it to your timelines. DM this to your friends. Someone you know needs to hear this conversation. Maybe this is a great talk for your organization, your company. Maybe we need to get Nimish around here to your companies to tell this story to your teammates. whatever it is, share this with people who you know need to hear this conversation. This is valuable and we need it, especially as technology professionals. So looking forward to seeing you all at our next Tech and Career Talk on May 22nd. We will have God Bless Pelpo talking with us about impactful leadership in the age of AI and automation. So a very relevant and timely follow-up to today's conversation when we think about what leadership looks like as a technologist and an engineer. I mean, how we communicate to business leaders. So God Bless is going to come and talk to us about what impactful leadership looks like in this new day and age of AI and automation. So excited for that. Can't wait to see you there. We'll see you in Indiana in July. Until next time, stay safe, stay blessed. We'll see you soon.